Last night, at exactly 3 a.m., I suddenly woke up with a strange sensation. Not because of a dream, but as if someone from a place far away was sending a message, not for themselves, but for a soul about to step through the gate of destiny. When I opened the star chart of Sagittarius, I saw a symbol, one that rarely appears. And every time it does, it marks a strange turning point. A gateway of fate opens, but only for those ready to receive. And this time, that person is you. If you feel your soul is being called, write this down. I am ready to receive the sacred calling meant for my soul alone. It's not just an affirmation, it's how the universe knows you've awakened. Did you feel something different last night? A prayer, not from human lips but from a place more sacred, was sent for you. And what I saw afterward will make you never see the world the same way again. Last night, when the clock quietly struck 3 a.m., I woke up. Not because of sound, not because of a dream, but because of a feeling I couldn't quite explain, as if something was shifting in the invisible realm. I stepped onto the balcony, looked up at the deep black sky, and saw the moon drifting across a rare region in astrology, the 12th house. The final house in the Wheel of 12, the place of endings, of forgotten memories, of unspoken pain, of abandoned prayers, and of spiritual connections that defy logic. To me, the 12th house is always a mysterious gate. It doesn't open by hand, it opens by intuition. And when the moon lights up this house, I know something has just been awakened. A soul, a message, an intervention from beyond the veil. And then I saw it again in the star chart of Sagittarius. A faint vibration at the corner of the 12th house, like the gentle breath at the bottom of the ocean, signaled that a prayer had been sent, but not by you. By someone or something, still watching over you from another dimension. Have you ever felt this? A night when you wake up, heart racing, but you don't know why. A day when you feel hollow inside, as if someone just walked out of your life, even though no one left. Or those moments when you suddenly shiver, even while standing in a crowd. All of those signs are vibrations, echoes of a silent but sacred prayer. I don't believe all prayers come from humans. Some come not from the mouth, but from the memory of the soul. Some are not born in the present, but from regrets left unhealed in a past life. And some prayers are not to ask for anything, but to protect someone whose soul could not be let go. Last night, that prayer was for you, Sagittarius. Not because you are weak, but because your soul is crossing a threshold that no one else is strong enough to walk beside you. You carry within you a light so true, it frightens others. And because of that, you are often alone. You are Sagittarius. You keep moving, always searching, always believing that beyond the horizon lies something greater. But because of that, there are nights no one knows you are breaking alone. And in that moment of your deepest silence, that prayer rose in your place. I know you're not used to asking for help. Sagittarius always tries on their own. But sometimes, light cannot protect itself. It needs someone, standing in the shadows, seeing it and saying, please, keep this light burning. Do not let it fade in the winds of the world. When I looked at the star chart from that night, I saw the moon forming a trine with Pluto and lightly touching Chiron, the wound of the soul. It was as if the universe whispered, there is an old wound being healed. Not by human hands, but by the acceptance that comes from the depths of the spirit. Perhaps lately, you felt more lost than ever before. The things that used to excite you no longer bring you joy. You feel lonely, even inside your own home. You sense a growing distance between you and the world, despite the smile you try to wear. But this is not a crisis. This is the soul in transition. And sometimes a transition doesn't arrive through action, but through a prayer that comes right on time. Do you know what makes a prayer truly powerful? Not its volume, not its poetry, but its sincerity. A soul who once lost you is now willing to give up every last ounce of light they have just to keep you from falling again. I've witnessed this before, and I believe that child was the light in her that never left. There was once a Sagittarius woman who collapsed after losing her first child. She no longer wanted to live. She no longer believed in anything. Then, at exactly 3 a.m., she dreamed of a little boy standing by the window, whispering, "Don't go, Mom. Someone is praying for you every night." The next morning, she chose to stay. She didn't know who prayed for her, but I knew some prayers don't come from the living. They come from souls that still love. Maybe you don't believe in that. And that's okay. The prayer doesn't require your belief. It still arrives. It doesn't need your reply. It only asks that you stop rejecting yourself. You won't be understood by everyone, but you are seen. You don't have to be the torch that burns forever. Sometimes a single ember still glowing is enough to warm a soul that's gone cold. You just need to be still and realize you were never truly alone. Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like something was protecting you, even when you had no name for it? A near accident that somehow didn't happen. A bad decision that strangely saved you. A moment you broke down in tears for no reason, and afterward felt suddenly light, as if someone had lifted the weight off your chest. If you've ever known a moment like that, write it in the comments below. I was protected without even knowing it. Because when you write it, you're not just affirming your belief, you're telling the universe, I've recognized the prayer, and I'm ready now. Some people are born to live peacefully, but some, like you, Sagittarius, were not born to belong anywhere. You were born to awaken the light in places where it seemed completely gone. You carry a different kind of light, not the kind that sparkles like gold, not the kind that bursts like fireworks. Your light is the light of truth, a truth not written in books but forged in the very wounds you survived. Because that's what it means to be Sagittarius. You learn through experience. You understand that life is not to be controlled, but explored. And every time you fall, you rise not only for yourself, but you return with a shard of truth to warm someone else's soul. Not everyone will understand you, and you don't need them to. But remember this, it is no coincidence that you were born under the sign of Sagittarius. You were chosen to become a flame in an age when people no longer believe in light. In astrology, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of faith, expansion, and cosmic wisdom. Jupiter doesn't just represent knowledge, it represents your soul's mission. So if you've always felt pushed out of your comfort zone, forced to travel, to study more, to meet more people, that's not chaos. That's the expansion your soul committed to before it was born. Maybe you don't know why you were born, but someone out there knows very well. So well, in fact, that they chose to pray for you instead of themselves. Because they saw you were starting to forget the light within you. Because that light was never meant just for you. It was meant for the souls still waiting for someone brave enough to reignite hope in the places they abandoned. And that someone is you. Have you ever asked yourself, why do I keep meeting people who are hurting? Why am I always the one they confide in? Why do I have to go through so many storms, only for others to learn something from the story I never asked to carry? It's because you carry a healing frequency, not the kind of healing that comes from saving others, but from becoming living proof that being real, being hurt, falling hard, can still lead to shining bright. God doesn't choose the perfect ones. He chooses those who dared to walk through the dark, those who know what it means to lose, to fail, to be misunderstood, to be left behind, and still, they choose not to close their hearts. Do you know why? Because people like that don't illuminate by theory. They shine through the very scars that once burned their hearts. If you're listening to this and something inside your chest is stirring, it's not coincidence. It's the echo of your soul remembering why it once chose to come here. You weren't sent here to prove anything. You came to become the one whom sleeping souls can look at and remember. I carry that same light. Write this in the comments below. I accept my mission with full humility. Because when you write it, you open a door within yourself. Not to take on burdens, but to free yourself from the limitations you once believed were real. I once met a Sagittarius woman who shut herself off after a deep emotional wound. She said, I don't want to do anything anymore. I don't want to help anyone, because the last time I did, I was left alone. I didn't ask her to be strong. I only asked, if light only shows up when it hasn't been hurt, would there be anyone left in the world to carry a torch? You don't need to be the best, you just need to be the most real. And that truth is the light for those who've lived too long in falsehood. I believe this. Light means nothing if it isn't shared. And suffering is not meaningless if it becomes a bridge for healing. So what you've lost was not in vain. The times you collapsed were not wasted. It's all being gathered so you can become the spark that helps another soul rise again. If you've ever wondered, what do I have to offer this world? Remember this. Sometimes the way you survived is enough to save someone who's about to give up. So dear Sagittarius, if you feel like you're too different, too much, or too sensitive, know this: you are not wrong. You were simply designed not to fit into the old, but to awaken what is new. If you feel that mission awakening within you, write this below the video. I will use my light to heal. And share this message with someone you believe still carries their light, even if it's been covered for a while. Because sometimes it's not gone, it's just waiting to be remembered. And that is why they cried. The one who prayed for you didn't do it because they thought you were weak. They did it because they knew you would never be the same again. Something is coming. And in the next part, I will tell you what is happening inside your birth chart when destiny truly begins to shift. There are moments in life when everything feels paused. You work hard, you live with integrity, you don't give up on anything. And yet you can't explain why you keep falling into this emptiness, as if something inside you is waiting to be activated, and you don't know how to name it. I've seen this state before, more than once, and it usually happens right before destiny opens its door. Recently, when I looked again at Sagittarius's energy, I saw something unusual moving. Something like a thin breeze between frequencies, brushing softly against corners that hadn't been touched in over a decade. An old cycle is returning, not to test you, but to give back what was once quietly taken from you. Have you noticed you've been bumping into old energies lately? Someone who once hurt you suddenly reappears. A dream you'd put aside returns without warning. A decision you buried starts to stir again deep in your chest. This is not coincidence. This is a signal. Your soul is pulling back the pieces that had once been scattered so you can become whole again. Maybe you lost something precious, a love, an opportunity, a purer version of yourself. You thought it was gone, but it's not. It's only been waiting for you to become strong enough to hold it again. This time without fear. I don't believe in punishment. I believe in preparation. And maybe every time you trusted the wrong person, every dream you abandoned, every time you whispered, "I have nothing left," it wasn't meant to break you. It was meant to deepen your heart, to soften it, to stretch it wide enough for the day truth returns. And that day, Sagittarius, is now. I know it might be hard to believe, especially when you look around and see no clear sign. But trust me, sometimes your soul knows long before your eyes do. The gate is opening. You don't have to rush. You just need to come back to yourself. I once read an old scripture that said, "Nothing that belongs to you can ever be lost forever. It only becomes invisible until you are bright enough to see it with your heart." And if you're listening to these words with a sacred silence inside, then maybe you've already begun to see. Be still for a moment. Ask your heart quietly, what is trying to return to me? A person? Something left unfinished? A piece of my soul I once forgot? If you have the answer, write it down. Sometimes you only need to affirm it with words and everything starts to move. I am ready to reclaim what belongs to me. Leave that sentence under this video. Not for me, but to send a signal to the universe. You have opened your heart. Not everyone is brave enough to welcome back what once wounded them. But you, Sagittarius, you're not just a bearer of light. You are the one who knows how to forgive. And from the very cracks within yourself, you help others see that they too can heal. And that is true destiny. When the map inside you changes, your entire life changes with it. But every transformation begins with one small, brave moment. A nod, an affirmation, a question no one has asked before. And sometimes, it begins with a prayer you never heard, but your soul received. You don't have to do much right now. Just stay close to yourself. Don't turn away from the light that's returning. Don't hide the heart that still wants to love again. Because real change doesn't begin when you get what you want. It begins when you finally remember. You've always been worthy of it. There will come a time when you look back at what once broke and smile. Not because it didn't hurt, but because now you understand. Every loss was the promise of something returning right on time. And then you'll understand why they prayed for you. Not because they thought you were weak, but because they knew you were approaching a turning point you could never return from. Something is waiting on the other side, something unlike anything you've ever known. And in the next part, I'll tell you who saw it before even you did. Because some prayers don't begin with words. They don't need to be spoken aloud, only remembered by a soul who once knew you well enough to awaken the universe. And last night, someone remembered you that way. I don't know who they are, but I can feel it. The connection is deep, distant, ancient. It doesn't come from memory, but from a nameless kind of knowing buried deep in the vibration of your heart. Maybe it was an ancestor, someone you've never met, but whose blood you carry. Maybe it was someone who once loved you completely and still watches over you, even if they're no longer here. Maybe it's a soul you once journeyed with in another life, and now they sense you've lost your way in this one. Or maybe it's you, from another timeline, who's already made it through, sending back a message to the version of you that's still searching. Have you ever wondered, why is it that at your lowest, when loneliness swallows everything, you suddenly feel an invisible hand lifting you up? Why is it that when you're ready to give up, something strange happens and you change your mind? Why do you cry, then suddenly feel lighter, as if someone gently lifted the sorrow right out of your chest? That is the moment the prayer arrives. It doesn't need you to hear it. It doesn't need you to understand. It only needs you to open your heart, just enough to receive it, and keep walking forward. I've seen something strange in the birth charts of those who are prayed for. The North Node, the point of destiny, or Chiron, the wound of the soul, often becomes activated right when they feel most empty. And that is not coincidence. When Chiron is touched, it's the moment your deepest wound begins to crack open, so light can finally enter. Why you? Why not someone else? Because maybe the light in you is too precious to be lost. Maybe you carry a piece of sacred purpose, one you haven't even recognized yet. Or maybe simply because your soul has never lost its innocence. And that innocence is what made someone who once loved you never stop protecting you, even after they were gone. I believe that in this life, some connections don't need words, only resonance. And you, at some moment, touched someone's soul through your honesty, your pain, or your quiet, unwavering light. And they have not forgotten that. You don't need to know who they are, you only need to know this. When someone prays for you, it means you are worthy. Not because you are weak, not because you need help, but because there is something within you too sacred to be buried. Be honest with yourself. Have you ever felt an invisible protection over your life? A dream that kept repeating? A whisper you couldn't explain? A stranger who helped you at the exact moment you needed it, and then disappeared as if they'd never been there? If you've ever lived a moment like that, share it in the comments. Because maybe it's not just your story. Maybe it's a living testimony to something mysterious that's moving silently among us. Right now, I want you to imagine this, a sacred room where ancient souls kneel. Not to pray for themselves, but to pray for a light that hasn't yet realized its purpose. That light is you. You don't have to change right now. You only need to know you are not forgotten, and your existence has touched someone so deeply that they chose to offer a silent prayer for you. And this morning, I saw a clear sign. It appeared at the exact moment that prayer was sent. A strange symbol, old, deep, one I've only seen a few times in my life. And in the next part, I'll tell you what that sign was, and why you shouldn't ignore it. Some nights, dreams are no longer fragments of the unconscious. They become a stage where souls step out and replay what we've forgotten, or haven't yet been brave enough to remember. And if lately you've dreamed of standing in front of a door or hearing a faint voice at 3 a.m., trust this. It's not coincidence. It's a sign. A gate is opening, and it does not open for everyone, only for those who are ready. I once saw a symbol like that. The first time was in 1978 during a birth chart reading for a Sagittarius woman. She arrived in silence. Her eyes were dry. Her voice had fallen into emptiness. I didn't ask why she came. I only looked at her chart, and I saw a strange image, a burning bow, hanging in a gray-blue sky, next to a pale white glow, like a hand pointing toward the horizon. I wrote it down, but I didn't tell her what I felt. I just asked gently, "Do you still want to stay?" She said nothing, then left. The next morning, she called me, her voice trembling. I was ready to leave last night, but when I closed my eyes, I saw someone in white walk up to me. They said nothing. They just placed their hand on my chest, and I felt warm. That same day, she received news. The tumor she thought was incurable was beginning to shrink. I never forgot that symbol, and recently I saw it again in the chart of a Sagittarius. It might be you. Jupiter, the ruling planet of Sagittarius, is forming a rare trine with Neptune. In astrology, this is a time when dreams become sacred maps. Not every dream is just a dream. Some are codes sent from higher realms of the soul. You may have had strange dreams lately. A stranger in white. A glowing bow in a dark forest. A blurred sound at exactly 3 a.m., followed by silence. You wake up, heart racing, but you can't remember the details. Only a feeling remains. I just saw something real, but why can't I recall it? That's because your soul is speaking in a different way. Not through images, not through words, but through frequency. You don't need to remember the dream. You just need to trust the feeling it left behind. And if you feel confused, if you feel like something is calling you somewhere, pause and listen. I've always believed dreams are where the soul says what we're too afraid to hear in the daytime. And you know what? Some things cannot reach you when you're awake because you're still afraid, still thinking, still holding on too tightly. But in dreams, you let go. And when you let go, the gate opens. Have you seen that gate? Maybe you saw yourself standing in front of an old, rusted, moss-covered door. Maybe you dreamed of returning to your childhood home, but everything was different. Or maybe you dreamed of falling and weren't afraid. Every one of those is a message from the other side. If there's one thing I know for certain from all my years in this life, it's this. No dream repeats itself without meaning, and no one dreams of light unless that light is already looking for them. Do you dare to step through that gate? Not with your feet, but with your choice. Starting today, will you believe in something greater than your fear? Will you stop turning back just because you can't see the whole road? Will you take the next step, even if the light only reveals one step at a time? I step into the gate of my destiny. If you're ready, write that below this video. You don't need to explain. You don't need to prove anything. Just show the universe. You've heard. You've chosen. I don't know where that gate will take you, but I believe. What waits on the other side is not a reward. It's a sanctuary, a sacred temple, a place where you, with everything you've survived, will finally be named by your own light. No one knows for sure, but I believe what waits on the other side is not a prize. It's a higher version of you, the one you were truly born to become. Believe this. If you were led here, if you're hearing these words, if you feel something inside you whispering, I remember something, even though I've never known it, then the gate has already opened, and it will not stay open forever. The prayer from last night was not sent to everyone. It was sent to a soul standing at the threshold, not between right and wrong, but between the old and the new. And that soul is you, Sagittarius. You didn't land here by accident. You're not listening to this by chance. You're not feeling this shift inside you randomly. Because in truth, you are standing at the edge of awakening, the kind that doesn't need recognition, doesn't need anyone to believe, doesn't require permission. Throughout this journey, you've asked again and again, who am I? Why am I here? And the answer is not far away. It's within the light you've been trying to hold on to, even when it almost slipped through your fingers. You don't have to change to be loved. You don't need to become someone else to be seen. You only need to stand still in your own light, and truth will find you. And the universe will bring the right person, the right opportunity, the right moment to your door. Not too early, not too late, exactly on time. The sacred is not loud. It doesn't argue. It doesn't need you to become someone else. It only asks that you be still, listen, and keep walking. And if you've made it this far, if your heart feels something opening inside, if your soul is whispering, I know now, then this is the moment to choose. Choose the light. Choose to keep going. Choose to no longer hide. Share this video with someone you feel needs to hear a prayer spoken for them. And if you are ready to say it out loud to the universe, write this. I am not abandoned. I am chosen. Because when you say that, you're not just saying it to me. You are allowing yourself to be seen. And your light will become the light someone else has been waiting to find.